So our first session is going to be AI as equitable workforce infrastructure. This panel will explore how artificial intelligence can be leveraged to create more equitable workforce, addressing challenges like bias in hiring, access to job opportunities, and skill development. Experts in AI, policy, and workforce innovation will discuss how AI-driven tools can democratize opportunities, streamline training, and provide inclusive pathways to employment for underrepresented communities. You will all gain insights into practical applications and the potential of AI to reshape the future of work in a fair and equitable manner. I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie Humphrey, who is our moderator, and she's going to take it from here.
Thank you. But I think, in light of last night's events, y'all got to put a little respect on my name. I am Innovation Weekend award-winning moderator Stephanie Humphrey, advocate for equity. Hannah told me to say that. And let's bring our panelists up. I'm going to introduce Hannah Erickson. Hannah is the Director of Sustainability and Impact at Upwork. She drives Upwork's corporate sustainability and impact strategy, which includes overseeing the Upwork Foundation's community initiatives and grant making. And I will give both of our panelists a little time to tell you a little bit more about themselves as well. And then Erinn Corbett-Wright is the Senior Manager of Philanthropy at Salesforce, where she oversees a grant making portfolio that supports programming for underrepresented youth to access the digital skills and early career experiences that energize economic opportunity within the tech sector. She's also the founder of Ethos Advisory Services, a consulting firm that helps clients design and implement effective strategies for social good. And she is also an adjunct faculty instructor at Temple University, teaching courses on nonprofit fundraising and public policy. Please give a round of applause for our two panelists, Hannah and Erinn. So first of all, I just want to give you both a couple of minutes to really sort of go a little bit deeper into what you do, your passion for why you do the things you do, and just a real brief sort of synopsis, if you will. Hannah? Yep.
Hello.
There we go.
Hi. I can also just yell, but this might be more polite. So it's nice to be here. Thanks for having us, thanks for having me. So I work, as Stephanie said, I'm the Director of Sustainability and Impact at Upwork. So show of hands, how many people here are familiar with Upwork? Okay, quite a bit actually. So just as a basic primer, we are a global work marketplace, and what that means is we have freelancers based in over 180 countries, connecting with clients that are also dispersed across the globe. These are all customers, right? So these are not our freelancers or our employees. The freelancers that are on Upwork are independent talent. They are our customers. And then on the other side of the marketplace, we have clients, and those clients could be individual people that are starting up their own business, their own nonprofit. We have a lot of medium-sized enterprises, and then large enterprise clients. So my role at Upwork, I wear really two hats. One is the ESG hat. So for folks that are familiar with that, it's the environmental social governance hat. It's more of a sort of investor-facing role, so focused on a lot of the data and metrics tied to what our company does, how we operate, what our business does, sharing those specific metrics with investors, clients, and other stakeholders that want to see sort of how we're operating. The other hat is wearing my Upwork Foundation hat. So we are also a grant maker. We grant somewhere between $800,000 to $2 million a year, depending on how our stock price is doing. And we focus mainly on workforce development as a overarching theme, and then multiple themes sort of within that year to year.
Thank you, Hannah. So I am Erinn Corbett-Wright. Stephanie made me sound really, really busy. I promise I don't do all of those things at the same time. But what I will say is that my grounding in this work is actually because I have been a beneficiary of effective nonprofit programming, and I believe that social impact, specifically philanthropy, is a vehicle for us to widen the potential that we have to allow people to choose their futures for themselves on their own terms. How that comes to life within the context of Salesforce is that I have the great pleasure of working within the Salesforce Foundation, which spends about $33 million globally across education, be that increasing access to STEM education, be that educator professional development and pipeline diversity, or career-connected learning opportunities. And my body of work, very thankfully, is centered on the career-connected learning opportunities and workforce development organizations like Coded By and One Philadelphia, who is a grantee partner of Hannah and I's, to help widen the lanes of opportunity that are available to various communities within the tech sector.
Fantastic. I love that you are both about that life, about that social impact life. So as we're looking at AI as this tool, right, for creating this more equitable workforce, we're giving AI a lot of credit to be transformational in how we work and how we look at work. There are still a lot of disparities in some of the foundational technologies. I mean, it's great to have all this cool technology, but we got to get to the basics first. So how are we ensuring that the gaps are addressed in hardware, software, internet access before we push forward with these AI-driven solutions, especially when a lot of underrepresented communities struggle to have even the most basic digital tools?
Absolutely. So I would agree with you wholeheartedly, especially because I'm reading a phenomenal book right now called The Digitally Invisible by Nicole Turner-Lee, how the internet is creating a new underclass. And the synopsis of that book is that without us very seriously continuing to invest in the basics, to your point around broadband access and hardware, there is only going to be a widened gap when we talk about this rapid acceleration toward the AI economy. And really, within the Salesforce Foundation, where we foresee our role is by creating access to digital skills sooner. So recognizing that any talent problem that you are having today is actually an educational problem that you would have had to solve for at least 20 years before that person enters the workforce. How do we facilitate exposure to digital skills without a defined outcome, right? So how are we making digital resources, digital literacy available in middle and high school? How do we facilitate exposure to just how technology pervades the world of work? Whether that means that you are a technologist building solutions, or if you are working and using those solutions to power your role in another occupation. So as much as possible, it is necessary to acknowledge and provide capital, which I think is what philanthropy does well, to provide capital towards allowing communities to do not only the work of the future, but to also do the remedial work that's necessary to help everyone at least get to the starting line that's necessary to participate.
Yeah, thank you. And building on that, I think about this question kind of in two ways. One is who gets to work in tech? Who gets to work in this space? And then how does tech decide who gets to have a job generally, right? Who gets to work at all? Wearing my sort of Upwork corporate hat, right? Not my grant making hat, but thinking about kind of how Upwork is built. When you think about, again, how tech enables people to just find a job, build a livelihood, build a career, et cetera, Upwork was really created on the idea that we should try to create a workforce or a job-seeking process that is based on merit to the extent possible. So, historically, the things you see on a resume, the job experience, your tenure there, your title, your school, your alma mater, the name of that alma mater, was it an Ivy League, right? There's a lot of things that our resumes are set up to sort of do that others, right? That creates sort of who's thought of as having the right background and who's not. things as innocuous as your name, right? Those things can be, and thinking about sort of AI tools and how AI tools might be screening resumes, right? Like, there's a lot of built-in bias, and again, it's human bias, but with AI, you're taking that human bias and turning it into a data point that a tool uses. And we're trying to sort of disrupt that altogether, right? So on Upwork, if you get on Upwork as a freelancer, and many of you may already know this, the first thing you see at the very top of your profile isn't even someone's full name. It's their skills categories and their client feedback. So how did clients sort of perceive their engagement with them? That reigns supreme. And then there's sort of a portfolio where you can highlight the specific deliverables you've provided clients, right? So this is my output. This is what I create. This is my creativity. This is my product. Down at the very bottom, folks can add their employment history and their schools, but a lot of people don't. So that's sort of how we're trying to kind of change the data points and indicators of success. But then also at the Upwork Foundation, we think about all of the sort of marginalized communities that still don't have the skill set or the background, or, I mean, really, we try to focus as much as possible on skill set to be able to use a tool like Upwork, right? So going back to your point, Erinn, some of that is fundamentals, right? We tend to focus on digital literacy, but that means you have to first have literacy, right? You have to have internet access, and we're a global funder. So sometimes some of our grantees are focused on refugees who are living in a place where they don't actually have the legal right to work. They don't have, connection to internet. They don't have a workplace that they can go to every day. So I think focusing on the fundamentals first, and then thinking too about how we can change the infrastructure and the data points that go into these decisions.
I love that idea that you're sort of creating that equal access through the elimination of markers, identifiers that could potentially support bias in hiring. Are you using AI or leveraging AI to expand that approach or strengthen that approach? Is it a part of that idea?
Yes, so we are. We are investing heavily in AI tools. And I want to just preface this with, it's not a perfect solution, right? I mean, we are trying to build a meritocracy, but it's not perfect. And we're sort of trying to figure out how we need to change things. Now, the AI tools that we're building, we have a tool called UMA, Upwork Mindful AI. It's really geared to be sort of human-centered. So how can we help humans connect with other humans in a better, quicker, more efficient, more enjoyable way? And so one of the things we do, I mean, before AI, right, we had a matching algorithm, right? I think a lot of people sort of forget about all the tech that's not AI. Mm-hmm. We've had tech involved in surfacing talent to clients, right? So if you're a client, you get on Upwork and you're looking for someone in this region with this skill set to do X. We will suggest freelancers for you, right? Now, one of the things that we don't collect about any user on Upwork is any racial, ethnic data and any gender data. So we don't know if our customers are men or women or people of color or not. We do know nationality and where they're based. In fact, I'm not actually sure we know nationality. Let me take that back. We know where they're based, right? So we know if you're based in Nigeria or based in the Philippines. But that was intentional so that those matching algorithms and the decisions that our tech is making, but also that we are encouraging clients to make, is not based on that information. The tricky part there is it's hard to test biased outcomes that we did not design for, right? So if we don't know, it's really hard to test for if the outcomes of those algorithms are turning out to be biased towards women, men, people of color, white people, people based in the States, people based in other countries, et cetera. So we're sort of trying to figure out how to do that A/B testing. But yes, to answer your question, we are definitely trying to make those matching algorithms a lot more effective and scrubbing as much data from freelancer and client profiles to understand who would actually be a good match.
Awesome. Well, let's take this to sort of a corporate social responsibility angle. And Erinn, I'm going to pose this question to you. What role does corporate social responsibility play in shaping a more equitable AI-enabled workforce?
Absolutely. So I think that corporate social responsibility, and then just to not have to say that phrase so much, I'm going to use an acronym, so CSR. I think that CSR can bring the people, the capital, and the products that we need to energize and accelerate access. So what that means from a Salesforce perspective is we recognize that AI is going to change the world of work, much in the same ways that we are expected to understand how to navigate the internet, much in the same ways that we have been expected to understand Microsoft Office even, right? AI is going to be one of those ubiquitous digital skills that ultimately becomes just required as a baseline. That does not mean that you are a technologist. It does not mean that you are a UI UX designer, but the expectation is beginning to emerge and it's there. To support that from the perspective of product, we have a couple of different initiatives that are active at Salesforce. So right now, you can navigate to Trailhead, which is Salesforce's publicly available learning management platform, and you can take any certification that is AI connected for free until the end of 2025. So if it's going to change the world of work for everyone, we have to help everyone get there. And that's the power of being able to not only provide money or volunteers toward a particular initiative, but to also take advantage of our product and how that's shared with community. In addition, there is the money component. In my opinion, philanthropy is the most risk-tolerant form of capital that we can contribute towards widening the lanes of access toward AI literacy, working in the AI economy as product developers and creating the solutions that we'll all use to make our lives easier, and just, quite frankly, having the digital skills that we need to participate in the world. With that in mind, Salesforce activates an accelerator process where we incubate unique uses of Salesforce to solve emergent issues within nonprofit organizations. And that happens by way of something called the AI for Impact Accelerator. So we'll give you a pro bono team from our product side of the house to help you build the thing. And then in addition to ideating and building the thing, we will also give you the funding to actually implement said solution. And these solutions span across climate and education at a global scale. So that's the money component. And as much as that happens within the AI for Impact Accelerator for our organizations that are working across the United States and Europe to provide digital skills, to provide early career opportunities, and to provide access to, quite frankly, the AI fundamentals that we'll all be expected to know. There's the foundation side of the house that provides that general learning space and opportunity for growth. And then last but certainly not least, to Hannah's point, AI is a tool. Tools still require humans to use them. We talk as if AI is going to be this 180-degree swap out from humans to technology, when actually we posit at Salesforce that humans have to be kept in that loop. The most effective and efficient use of AI is actually when humans and AI are working together. And so you see that in a product that we have called Agentforce, whereby those very common questions, to Hannah's point, getting to the meat and potatoes of the conversation straight away around skills and competencies, the things that kind of take us away from our core functions, Agentforce allows us to automate some of those processes while allowing humans to still engage with humans at what they do best. So, for example, in an education context, and what we believe within the Salesforce Foundation is that AI cannot teach you eye contact in a conversation. AI cannot teach you relationship building and why it's important after that interview to follow up with a thank you email. AI can write that email for you, but AI can't prompt you to take that action. The pieces of human to human experience that make or break someone's experience in the workplace is the piece that we have to really hold on to and elevate so that we don't lose the need for human intelligence as much as we are driving awareness around technical intelligence. And so I believe that CSR across all of those categories are able to kind of accelerate experimentation, creating safe space to maybe arrive at a different conclusion than you originally sought out. But there are all opportunities for us to get there along the way.
I love that. I love that. I will be scouring Salesforce's website after this to find some opportunity for myself. And I hope all of the young people and really everyone in the audience took note of that, because there are like gems hidden on Salesforce's website right now that can help you. And I love what you said about the idea that you don't have to be a technologist, or you're not going to need to be a technologist to understand how AI gets incorporated into your particular line of work or business. And that leads me to a really good follow-up for you, Hannah. What impact are you seeing AI on the types of jobs that get posted to Upwork, and what categories are you seeing growing the fastest?
Yes. We get this question a lot. And it's an important question. So we are seeing, as it's probably not surprising to anyone here, the AI work category being by far the fastest growing work category on Upwork. So looking at our Q2, at gross services volume, in other words, the amount of money exchanging hands on the Upwork platform between freelancers and clients, it grew almost 70% from last year to this year. So it's expanding rapidly. Someone on our product team told me that there are 250 unique AI skills. I was like, let me see that list. I don't know how that could be possible, but from deep learning to large language models, we have freelancers on the platform who specialize in building AI systems, right? Building LLMs, building the tools that clients are a lot of startups are sort of putting together now. You also have folks who are using the AI tools, right? So you've got prompt engineers, folks who have specialized in those skill sets. And then you have the folks that are using AI tools in their respective fields, right? So if you are a graphic designer and you're using Adobe, if you're proficient in Adobe, I think it's Firefly, right? Or if you are a coder and using GitHub Copilot, right? That's an AI skill, even though you are not an AI professional per se. And so we're seeing jobs related to AI expand very rapidly. We are seeing certain job categories being diminished in terms of the number of job posts and the total earnings in those. Can anyone guess what the top job category is that's being affected? Writing and translation. So, I think we do certainly still see a lot of jobs in that job category. And actually, interestingly, we see higher earning projects earning even more. And this goes back to sort of not just what types of jobs or industries are being affected, but also the level of expertise, right? So we often say that AI is taking over the sort of rote, more tedious, more, what's the right word? Routine functions, right? It's taking those over. The higher level, more strategic jobs, that's obviously something that the AI systems can't do. And so folks that are really versed in using these tools, we have a lot of consultants that are helping clients understand how to use these tools. Those are getting higher and higher in terms of their earnings per project. So there's the good and the bad there. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say on that topic. I think what I'll just say too is, the thing that I think the biggest challenge on Upwork that we need to crack is folks that are new to their career, right? Entry-level roles. Because when you say, well, this is just sort of rote or routine data entry, this is lower skill work, this is more sort of entry level work. Well, those entry level jobs teach us to be specialized, right? We need those. And so one thing that we found on Upwork is it's really hard to get started on Upwork. We know this. If you are new to Upwork, you are first setting up your profile, you are trying to get the attention of clients, it's really hard, it's a hustle. And there's a certain point where you sort of cross that threshold and all of a sudden clients are actively reaching out to you and you're sort of saying no to more work. And we need to make sure that the AI tools that we are embedding into the platform, but also the tools that we're seeing other people just generally use, are not making it even harder for people to get started in their careers.
Let's talk about ecosystem. I mean, One Philadelphia, literally by definition, is an ecosystem builder. And we're all here to kind of understand how we can contribute to that process. So what, if any, partnerships are needed between private sector, nonprofits, grant makers, philanthropy, educational institutions, entrepreneurs to ensure this AI-ready workforce? How are we going to do this together? And either one of you can start.
Sure. So I will say that it is yes, right? Like the simple answer to your question, Stephanie, is that yes, because none of us have the answers. Like, we both work at like very tech-driven and tech-centered organizations, and we ourselves are still developing all of the possibilities that are associated with this moment and this technology. And asking questions at the same time requires a collaborative response. There is the potential for harm if we are not intentional about making sure that stakeholders are all gathered at the table and that we don't assume that we have the answers on behalf of a particular audience. So as much as we have a role at Salesforce to kind of provide the platform and the technology and even making resources and certifications available to get you there, there's also a role that our educators and our training providers play in letting us know, like, hey, this is what it means when the rubber really hits the road. For example, I want to say conversations around AI and how it was showing up for our community partners really started to bubble probably like last May at Salesforce. And I had to kind of stave off a little bit of folks' urgency to ask our partners, well, what are you doing with AI, and how are you training students, and how are you supporting learners and gaining access to the technology, to remind folks that we have the benefit of being a multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation with folks who can pivot on a dime. And that if we get a product release wrong, it stings a little bit, but we can issue an update and then all the bugs are fixed and life is good again. We can't issue updates to humans. And so there is a measured pace, and that's why we need folks who are dealing with humans to talk to those of us who deal with systems and technologies most often. And then last but certainly not least, there has to be greater collaboration from a government perspective between the private sector and our educational institutions to really get to the heart of what is work evolving to be, and how do we go about preparing folks in an equitable way for those realities. Because I would argue that there's nothing about my either primary, secondary, or even collegiate level experiences at this juncture that matches the reality of work today, right? Like, and in the same ways, to that point, in the same ways that we offered computer classes where it was not structured around a particular subject, but like literally, this is how you search, right? This is how you type, right? Like so I'm old a little bit. So like the Mavis Beacon of the world, we have to engage the same level of curiosity from each of our perspectives to really drive an inclusive path forward.
Yeah, I think I think nonprofits are actually incredibly important in this conversation. You have large public educators who have the infrastructure. They have, students in seats. They've got the access and the infrastructure to reach students, but obviously those systems are slower to change and update their curriculum to make sure that the curriculum's aligned with, workforce demands. For-profits are moving at a breakneck speed. I mean, right now, I will say, we had this conversation preparing for this panel. It's like some of these questions, it's like, we just launched this product. We don't know, everyone is moving so quickly. AI isn't new, but AI as part of our common vernacular and it being embedded into every tech company and non-tech companies' products is happened in the last 12 to 18 months. It is fresh. And the corporate sector is moving super quick, right? It's kind of a race here in terms of who's going to come out with the most useful tech and sort of win in their marketplace. Nonprofits see what's happening on the ground, the lag, right, between what public education is providing and where corporates are just moving at a breakneck speed. And they're saying, hey, hold on, there's a disconnect here. And they're the first ones to see it, I think. They're also the first ones who are saying, hey, by the way, also this particular group and this particular community is missing out. And so folks in the corporate sector need nonprofits, really, truly need them to inform us about where folks are falling behind, where there's a huge disconnect. When we can't hire because there aren't talent to meet our needs, that's going to slow us down, right? I'm stating the obvious, but I think also too, corporations employers really have to share information in terms of the skills that are in demand, right? We need to be sharing that information regularly so that education systems and nonprofits, et cetera, can adapt. But also there's some really great initiatives where corporations have built, Grow with Google, right? They have built out a curriculum that is specifically designed to match with their skill set demands. And so they're telling you, this is an in-demand skill and this is how you can get it. You can get skilled through these courses, you can get certified through these courses. And I think those partnerships are super crucial.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have one more question before I open the floor for questions, but if you would like to submit your question, you can send a text message to you can send 1PHL to 22333 to submit your question if you don't feel comfortable asking it, but we will open the floor once we wrap up. Okay, so take out your crystal ball. Where do you see AI continuing to transform workforce infrastructure over the next 5 to 10 years or so? What do you think workforce development organizations should be doing to prepare people, particularly from underrepresented communities, for an AI-enabled future of work? And what additionally should those organizations be thinking about going forward?
Okay, so the crystal ball probably won't even exist as a concept because that's how ubiquitous AI will likely be in the next 5 to 10 years. I feel like it's like the Jetsons, right? How they said we'd all have our own Judy by this point in time. But what I can say about that is that we've seen these waves of AI kind of happen very fast, right? I think in the ways that I want to say prior to generative AI, the quickest kind of technological adoption that we've seen in recent past would have been the iPhone and the advent of smartphones as a consumer use product. We could very well be on a path to artificial general intelligence, which is the idea that AI could be sentient and actually contain the capacity for emotional.
It's coming.
Exactly, the capacity for emotional intelligence. And to that point, what becomes really critical to prepare folks to access whatever lies up ahead is shifting from thinking that education is a one-time experience and that it only takes place in one part of your life. The world where you go to middle, high school, higher education, be that a degree program or a certification program, and then that's it, those days are over. As a person with an advanced degree, I am on Trailhead right now trying to become a Salesforce AI associate because it is just as incumbent on me to get skilled in these capabilities as it is for any young person who's sitting in a school seat today. So I think it's going to take a real shift in how we consider learning and what education is in order for us to stay competitive, because we also don't know what we don't know. And operating with that beginner's mindset, I think, will really be key for the years to come. There was a second part to your question that I want to make sure I address.
You talked about sort of the idea of being prepared to be a continuous learner. I think that is sort of really the crux of what people can do to prepare at this point.
Absolutely.
Just understanding that mindset shift really is what it is that it's here, it's not going anywhere, and we will have to continue to update our own education and skills as the technology advances.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, along those same lines, not everyone, like AI is here, right? AGI is almost here. Who's to say whether it's in 2 to 10 years? I don't know. But we don't all have to be AI technologists. We don't all have to be data scientists. But we need to know how to enable or to leverage, AI tools for our work. That's just clear. On Upwork, we've tried to make the freelancers on Upwork the most AI-enabled talent on the marketplace. So if you sign up for Freelancer Plus, we provide GPT-4, we provide ChatGPT-4 from OpenAI, and we provide a number of other tools, right, that help you get the work done once you actually get the job. And so I'm doing this. I mean, I constantly have ChatGPT open just to sort of test it out. Now, the amount of carbon and water that uses, that's for another conversation. But I need to just get comfortable with it. I need to know, and I will say I've used it in ways where I'm like, holy cow, it's capable of that. That's like pretty intense. And then I've tried to use it in other ways, and it hallucinates. It can't do it, right? So it's actually really interesting to see what are the boundaries here. What can it do? What can it not do? Understanding how to use it, when to use it, et cetera. I don't think we should be using it for every single search query. I don't think we should be using it in every single work task that we do. But right now, as we're learning how to use these things, I think it's really helpful. I will also say AI is an equal opportunity disruptor. Like, it's going to impact every job. In fact, it's going to impact white-collar, high-earning tech jobs before it impacts the trades, right? So I do think, quite honestly, that the tech sector is going to be a little volatile for a while because everyone's sort of figuring out, there's so much change. Everyone's sort of figuring out what AI tools are necessary, are helpful, are beneficial to us, and what aren't. And so it's going to be kind of a crazy world for the next year, I think. But, I'm very hopeful because we're frankly all in this together. Like, this is a humanity issue, It's how much do we want humans to be involved in creating things is really sort of the question.
Hold on, it's going to be a bumpy ride. Do we have any questions? I would like to open the floor for questions.
Hello. It was an amazing panel, and thank you for coming on, even though I joined in the middle of it and didn't get to hear all of it. So my question is, what are you most excited or concerned about regarding the future of AI, and how do you see women playing a role in shaping that future?
You want to take that one first? That's a hard one.
I see women in AI facilitating a more inclusive set of products and solutions. So looking beyond, I mean, I think I heard something that said, like, at once upon a time, AI-driven voice recognizers didn't actually recognize women voices at one particular point in time. So like from an equity perspective, to make sure that we are all seen, that is why we need folks of all gender identities and folks of all races and ethnicities participating in the development of the technology itself, so that it is built with the end user in mind, recognizing how diverse and nuanced we all are. What most excites me about AI is actually the fact that it creates capacity for us to be more human. I can spend less time on the administrative burden, right? Like, so Stephanie and I had a little laugh because we talked about how AI can be consulted for like that version 1 of panel questions, right? And it's great because from that baseline, I then can spend more time conversing with you, getting to know you and the richness of your experience and what you care most about, to even further refine that response that I'm getting from artificial intelligence. And so that's the thing that feels most promising to me, and also why we need inclusive kind of access to the technology itself.
Yeah, something that you said brought up the in terms of what I'm feeling most optimistic and hopeful about. You know, we talk about the efficiency gains with AI, right? Well, what's the point of an efficiency gain if we don't then get some more time to do what we love to do and not be at the desk for 8 or 9 or 10 hours a day, right? So I'm really hopeful that we can create the tools necessary to do the least human parts of our jobs and then focus on the most human parts, the folks, you know, the parts that maybe are not easier, maybe they're harder, maybe they're stickier, maybe they're, you know, more challenging, but they feel creative, they feel new, they feel innovative. And then also take some time off work, right? I mean, that's what email was supposed to do, I think. You know, I think we need to really be mindful when we develop these tools and see that ecosystem change. Like, what is this doing for us collectively? Maybe we can go down to the 4-day work week, right? I mean, if we're talking about efficiency, there's got to be some net benefit for us. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to kind of keep reminding ourselves of that fact. In terms of women in AI, I think there's a reality, right? AI is based off of data science. There's not enough women in data science. You know, I think a lot of problems with sort of inclusive workforce discussions is like it's a pipeline problem when it's not a pipeline problem, but I think in this case it's a pipeline problem. And so we need to, you know, equip folks with the skills. Now, there are sort of fast entryways into AI, right? Prompt engineering might be a good example. I'm not sure how much prompt engineering will exist still, honestly, in 5 years, because the tools themselves will be better at engineering themselves and responsive to sort of the layman's needs. But I think that's a more challenging topic that is more of an ecosystem topic, right? You can't sort of get women from not being involved in data science at all, and not to say that we aren't, but from, you know, that point to fair representation in AI development is going to be kind of challenging.
I know we're up on time, but I do see one more hand over here in front. So I do want to give this person a chance to add. But this will be our final.
Hi, how are you guys? My question is, do you think the thought of sentient AI is scary? And if not, what would you say to someone who thinks it is?
So I do kind of think it's scary. This is Erinn, the individual, not Erinn from Salesforce, saying that it's scary. And most of that is because of a wonderful movie that came out in the mid-2000s called I, Robot with Will Smith. Just to be quite honest and quite vulnerable. But at the same time, I think to Hannah's point around redefining our relationships to work, the 40-hour work week is built on an industrial context or like connection to work, where you needed to be on a factory line or physically in a particular work location having a tactile experience. In order to do that, that's where the 40-hour work week comes from. In the world where there is sentient AI, I don't know that even a full 8-hour workday is necessary anymore. And rather than, there's an opportunity for us to consider not necessarily filling that 8-hour time slot or that 40-hour work week with more tasks, to let's pay people for what they're worth and what they produce. Let's shift from inputs to outcomes. And so I'm excited by that possibility and the opportunity that we have to be more human, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're up on time, so I'm going to try not to be long-winded because I tend to be long-winded. I will say yes, short answer, it's scary, right? I think the very developers of AGI, the very developers who are at the forefront of this work have said, this is a little bit worrisome. So we should take their, heed their advice a little bit and take that seriously. It's the thing that, when I have my sort of like techno-pessimistic days, and I do, the thing that I have to remind myself is it's easier to see the world through today's lens, right? So like today's jobs, today's tech, and what if XYZ is taken away? And it's really hard to, at least for me, imagine, well, what would be gained? Because I just haven't seen it yet. So that gives me hope about, being able to respond to and have, especially the work ecosystem, adjust as tech develops. But yeah, I mean, we're in a truly disruptive technological phase right now. It's kind of unprecedented. So it's going to be interesting.
And I do just want to add something to that. I totally do not want to bring the tone of this panel down because you were awesome. But I have to mention, when we're talking about AGI and sentient artificial intelligence, we already have AI that makes, I don't know if you're familiar with the Turing test. That is a test that if you're speaking to a robot or an artificial intelligence, you can't tell that it's not human. If it passes that test, then it's good AI, basically. And unfortunately, a young man just this week committed suicide because he got emotionally attached to a chatbot. And that was telling him different things and stuff like that. So we are kind of seeing where this could go, but I think we are also going to see, I don't want to say an industry, but a field of study or a field of care that helps us differentiate between man and human. And I think that's going to be very, very important going forward, making sure that we don't get emotionally attached. We are humans. We have human feelings. It happens. I get that. But we are going to need to see that element, grow up in parallel with the technology. And I think we will see that, especially in light of those events that just happened. So I think you can be cautiously optimistic. You can trust but verify, and a healthy sense of skepticism is warranted. But I think the net positive will still be in our favor as human beings. And I'll just leave it at that. But I want to thank Hannah Erickson. I want to thank Erinn Corbett-Wright for the panel. This was awesome. I think there are a lot of encouraging things happening in artificial intelligence as it relates to workforce development. I think it's only going to benefit us, but I think we do have to be mindful that it's something that we will all have to start incorporating into our own work. And then, we can all rise together.